Massive deal that we're expecting down at the Capitol is a bill extending rent regulations in New York City for the next 4 years. The issue was the main reason for the gridlock in Albany this week, and in the end, tenant advocates say that the plan that is in the deal does not go far enough. That includes my next guest, Michael McKee. He is the treasurer for the Tenants Political Action Committee. Michael, it's good to see you.
Good evening, Liz. How are you?
I am well, thank you. So apparently the governor had a little bit of a scrum, a gaggle with reporters not long ago, and he said that this agreement is, quote, the most pro-tenant regulation bill that has been done in decades and decades. You disagree?
I'm afraid I don't quite remember a better bill, except that I can tell you that the Omnibus Housing Act of 1983, when his father was governor, was a much better bill than this. You know, the only good thing you can say about this bill in terms of rent regulation for New York City and suburbs is that, number one, it's a short extender. It's either going to be 4 years or 5 years, whereas the real estate industry wanted a 14-year extender. And the other good thing you can say about it is that for the first time in 2 decades, there are no givebacks to landlords. There are no weakening amendments. But the supposed enhancements that are supposedly making the laws more tenant-friendly or going to slow down the loss of housing are, in some cases, laughable, and in other cases, meaningless.
You know,
and this bill isn't even, it's not even going to slow down the loss of affordable housing in the downstate region.
There are members of the Black and Latino caucus, the legislative caucus that represents both the Senate and the Assembly, who agree with you completely. And in fact, Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries, who has been on this show on several occasions, has said he's not sure if he's going to vote yes. That's a problem, obviously, because if he does not, and enough people do not, then this is all tied to a property tax cap and also to mandate relief. It's all smushed in there together. But then other people...
One big ugly.
Yeah, one big ugly. Other people have suggested this is the best you're going to get out of the Senate Republicans, and it takes 3 to tango in Albany, as I like to say. So do you disagree with that? I mean, with the Senate Republicans around, are you even... You do disagree.
I definitely disagree. I do not believe that the governor could not have negotiated a better bill. I think he could have. I don't think this was that important to him. The governor has been giving lip service to rent regulation for months now, saying he wants to support, that he intends to win stronger rent laws. But he's never said what exactly that meant. He's been very vague.
Right.
And if this is Andrew Cuomo's idea of stronger rent laws, then this is pretty pathetic. If this is what he's calling the strongest pro-tenant bill in 40 years, which is what I heard he had said to the scrum of reporters, that is really pretty pathetic.
What specifically, without getting too deep into it, because obviously, you know, for an upstate viewing audience, we're most concerned about everything that's connected to this. Now, if the rent deal falls apart, then everything else falls apart, and that's problematic. But specifically, what's the worst thing in this agreement, the most egregious part of it, in your mind?
Well, the failure to repeal vacancy decontrol, vacancy destabilization, and instead raising the threshold but allowing vacancy destabilization to continue, that is just it's a fatal flaw. Because what the bill does is that it allows landlords to continue to take vacant apartments out of regulation when they turn over, when people move, die, or get evicted.
Right.
And this has, you know, despite the attempt of the real estate lobby to paint this as having to do with rich tenants in New York City, vacancy destabilization has nothing to do with any tenant's income, only with the fact that the apartment becomes vacant. And there is no enforcement. The current law has no enforcement, and this new law has no enforcement. It's the process of taking an apartment out of regulation when it becomes vacant is entirely under the control of the landlord.
Right.
There's no oversight by the state housing agency. There is a massive amount of fraud. And landlords who do this illegally and get away with it. So raising it from $2,000 to $2,500, you know, in a very small number of cases that could be helpful, only where a tenant is represented by a lawyer, for example, and that's not most tenants. Most tenants can't afford to hire a lawyer. or where you've got a very savvy tenant or a tenant who educates herself or himself and prepares for a long, long fight, but they have to file a complaint within 4 years or the landlord gets away with it.
Okay, so
there's
Michael,
no enforcement at all.
Here's what I don't understand. Why do you believe, if in fact there are so many people who are upset, who are tenants, downstate tenants, you would think that this is a core constituency for the governor. So if many people feel the way you do...
Apparently not.
But then why? Why is the governor willing to sacrifice the support of these people? Does he believe
I don't know. You know, Governor Cuomo has been saying to people for months that the difference between now and 1997, when the laws were trashed, is that George Pataki was governor in 1997, and now you've got a strong Democratic governor, and he is going to deliver. He basically said time and time again, trust me, and he has not delivered. These are crumbs. This is a very, very minor enhancement. Basically, we're getting a 4 or 5 year straight extender of the laws as is, with some very, very minor enhancements.
Okay, but again,
there's no reform of the major.
Again, I'm sorry, forgive me for interrupting you, but I just want to ask you this question. Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver is a representative, he's that third guy in the room, the Senate Republicans, the Assembly Democrats, and the governor. Why are people not blaming him for this? He was supposed to be the champion of rent regulations.
Well, I think Shelley should have held out for more, I really do, and we certainly do blame him to an extent, but I think it's really the failure of the governor, not the speaker. I mean, obviously the speaker is trying to put a good face on this, saying this is the best we could get. He knows that many of his members from New York City and suburbs are very unhappy with this deal as it applies to rent regulation. We've talked to many people who were in the Assembly Democratic Conference meeting yesterday, which went on for hours. And it's very clear to the speaker that his members, are not happy with this deal.
And yet,
and of course, there's
and yet
they will probably, most of them will vote for it because they feel, you know, the way Albany works, you know, like every state legislature, the New York State legislature is leadership dominated, and there's always this pressure to support the leader. So if you vote against the bill, even though Speaker Silver told his members in conference yesterday, we were told that he doesn't care if anyone votes against the bill. He probably really does care, but that's what he said.
Interesting.
But, you know, there's always this pressure to support the leader and to put a good face on something. Well, I think it's really hard to put a good face on this deal.
Just in parting, because we're unfortunately out of time, Michael, the problem also is that tenants are not well funded with a huge lobbying organization. I mean, the landlords, I've heard from them that they were hoping for more. They didn't get more, obviously.
Well, they're used, you know, the real estate lobby is used to buying its way through the state legislature. I mean, they pay for what they get, and they've had their way for a long time. The governor told real estate representatives 2 weeks ago, you've had your way for 18 years, that's over, you're going to have to agree to some strengthening amendments, and these are apparently his ideas of strengthening amendments, which we think are really, really weak. Okay.
Well, and again, Michael McKee, I want to thank you very much for being here. Again, there's not going to be a vote tonight on this because we were hearing that they're they're just going into printing. So we will be catching up with you, I'm sure, in the next 24 hours. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Liz. Good night.
Good night.